Yeah.
All right, so here it goes. Well, everyone, we have reached the end of 2022. Happy New Year, everyone. Hope everyone's had a good week. And this is how I'm ending 2022, just as I started 2022 on Zoom. All right, guys, welcome back to Pick Your Brains podcast. Today, I have the honor of bringing on Miss Ivy Lees, somebody who I met on LinkedIn through a mutual connection of ours, and there's a lot in common as well, from shared experience with the recession in the last 2 decades, and a lot of other things that older millennials had to deal with that I think these younger generations still don't have much of an idea with. So now that it's New Year's, interesting product placement. Let's get started. All right, so don't worry. I'm not going to ask you any of the tell me about yourself question that you would get on a job interview, because this isn't a job interview. So my first question for you would be this. At 18 years old, what gave you the motivation to want to leave Puerto Rico for the mainland?
So first of all, hi, and thank you for having me here.
Of course.
A brief introduction so that people know who I am. So my name is Ive Cordero. I'm a marketing professional. I've been working in marketing for almost 20 years now. And I am super happy and excited to be here with Benjamin. Just to share a little bit of my experience in marketing, what has worked for me and what hasn't. So, and to answer your question, so I didn't leave Puerto Rico at 18 years old. I was in my 20s. I had finished my master's degree. I was working at Toyota Corporation for, they have different divisions. I was working in Puerto Rico for the Caribbean and Latin American market. And I finished my master's degree, and I decided to just move to New York City, where I always wanted to live, and take a chance on myself. So I quit my job at Toyota, and with no money, knowing no one, I just got a ticket and moved to New York City. So
is Toyota AMS was Toyota AMS corporate headquarters located in Puerto Rico where you started?
No. So Toyota corporate headquarters are in Japan. This is a Japanese company, but they have the at the time, the headquarters for the US, North America, were in California. They're now in Texas. So they have different subdivisions for the regions. And so
did they by any chance move to Texas because it was a better business environment and because the taxes are lower?
Well, that decision was quite some time ago, so I'm not sure. Probably. I also think because, and I wasn't at the company at the time, probably because proximity with Mexico, and they have production in Mexico, probably in Texas as well. I don't know where they in Canada. So obviously a financial decision at somehow, but I wasn't at the company then, so they moved, I think 2015 or something, or around there. I wasn't in the company, so I don't know exactly what the motivation was.
I probably think it was just a lot of these companies who move down to the South, I know it's for a slew of different reasons. Usually it's because they have certain laws they want to, they have certain things they like about the South. For example, there's a couple of things. There's probably more land to build a facility down there. Taxes and the legislator are probably a little easier with certain things. And the other thing is, in Texas and California, if I remember, I know this correctly, in Texas and California, there's more influence of labor unions. But if you go to a southern state, they don't have they're a right to work state. So that's probably one of the reasons, but I didn't realize that happened. So were you affected by the layoffs in 2008, right as the recession had just started?
No. So I was working at Toyota. I quit my job like in January of 2008, moved to New York City, and got a job at Key Digital, which is a small electronics company. And I was the national marketing manager there. And so it was a small company. So in 2009, I got laid off because, that's when the recession really hit the company and whatnot. So then after that, I applied for federal government and I got in, and I moved from New York City to Baltimore, Maryland. I'm sorry, it's New Year's here, and there's like a lot of fireworks going around. So if you hear it, I'm so sorry, I can't do anything.
I've been in some interesting. This at the beginning of the year. I actually did a record from here. Most of the year, I've been between coffee shop, hotels. So there's been some interesting noise here and there as well, just depending on the location. But good lighting.
No, I'm in Puerto Rico right now, and it's been, Christmas is just like it lasts like a whole month, and today's the day they start early. So there's nothing I can do at 7 p.m. here though. I don't know, 7:15 now probably. So they start
That's
early.
okay. So would you say the company that you worked for in New York during that time, was that a boutique marketing firm? Because there's a lot of those small marketing firms, and typically I interviewed at them a couple times. They give you like the brief 5 to 10 minute interviews, then they'll be like generic, oh, we'll get back to you in a week if we like you, or by the end of the day kind of situation. Did you go on that type of interview?
No, so Kid Digital was a electronics company. So they did I don't even remember that much, like USBs, all these electronics that would help you with the audio, like for if you were building, it was more business to business model. So
But the USBs, I always think of this, the little data storage stick, which everybody our age remembers. Remember when we went from floppy disks and smaller disks to these, and they never went away after that?
Yeah.
Because I know kids today, they're not going to know what this looks like. This is the fun part of being an older millennial. Remembering all the technology that we originally first had. Like, for example, let's see, did you have a bubble screen TV?
A bubble screen TV? I don't, so listen, I grew up in Puerto Rico, so that's a huge difference, because whatever was, and this is what I try to explain people, and as a marketer, I've done a lot of research, whatever may have been trending in the United States didn't necessarily hit the market here, at the same time. So I was in Puerto Rico until my mid-20s. So I don't, bubble TVs, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, I need a visual reference. So I had, I don't know, plasma TV.
That would be a bubble screen.
Oh, that's what, we had those. I mean, as a child, I had those. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see the other technology. Do you remember flip phones? I know you remember that one.
Yeah. I think no.
T-Mobile Sidekick.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So the three of us all grew up on almost all the same technology, because now everything's down to an earbud. And I'll give you one other piece of 2000s nostalgia.
I am not a techie person, so I
know, but these were, I had these headphones back in the 2000s, and they were like 24 to 30 bucks. Now they're only $9.
I know.
It's not about being a techie person. It's just about, in my mind, remembering some of this, the nostalgia of some of those products.
Yeah, no.
So I would like to know, as well as the audience, how do you navigate the federal government hiring process? If you wouldn't mind walking us through that.
Yeah. So, of course. So, federal government hiring is, I don't want to say it's different from corporate America. It's just, it takes longer. There's a lot of bureaucracy, and there's a lot of rules that people may not understand. So there's I don't even know where to start. So if you were to apply for a job, you need to make sure that it's open to the public. If you've never worked in federal government, if you are internal to any agency, then you have what we call competitive, not competitive advantage, but it's you're already within the federal government. So you have to apply to certain jobs that are open to other federal employees. So that's
Let me try to reframe this, and maybe you'll have an understanding. I'm sure this is true with most states, but does the federal government have what we consider to the public civil service exams? That's what you take in the state or the local or your local county to get on a list.
Yeah.
So, for example, in New York, if you wanted to become a police officer, like within the NYPD or the FDNY, first as an external person, you'd have to take a civil service exam and pass with a certain grade. Does the
No.
federal government work like that?
No, it does not. You just have to apply. It's just the application process. It is not super difficult. It's just a little different, and you have to make sure that you read the application. So usually you go to usajobs.gov and look for jobs. I don't know, find a keyword, location, and whatnot. Just make sure that if you're not a federal employee, it's open to the public. Then read the instructions, because that's going to make your life easier. And there's a questionnaire which you should reflect on your resume. Your resume, which is they ask for a federal resume, which is basically a resume with, you have to put your salary, you have to put your, location, exact dates of your employment. It has to be very precise, and you have to include your, like I said, your income, your, for every job. Because basically they're going to determine your ability based on your income. So what we call a GS levels. So if I am a GS 12, that means for federal government, and that's the equivalent of, like, I don't know, they have the equivalency of a military, like if you're a captain or whatever, like that scale. So the GS, if you're a GS 12, like I was saying, then you need to meet certain criteria. So basically, for the locality that you're in, if you're making X amount of money, so that's equivalent to a GS 10 or 12 or whatnot. And so that's what human resources use. So it's just a process. You have to apply. Usually it's a panel interview. They may, depending on the job, have like a test, like a small test. Like it's not complicated. It's just for instance, I applied to a job a few months back, and I had to do a kind of a test, but it was, the hiring manager developed it, and it was, like, how would you go about translating this? And, just they can come up with whatever depending on the position, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have to take a test, but that's basically the hiring process. Similar, you have to just make the BQ, which is the best qualified. So that means you're going past human resources and you're referred to the hiring manager. Once the hiring manager gets the resumes, then they make a decision on who to interview, and then it's a panel interview usually, and from there they make their decisions and they let you know. So same, I mean, it's very similar process. There's just a few things that you have to really take notice.
Interesting. I always thought it was similar to when you apply to the state or the local government, especially because where I live in Westchester County, a lot of there's different classifications of what we call civil service exams. Now, since before we would even touch some of the stuff that you did at SSA, I have a very oddly interesting question, especially for some of the audience that will probably wind up, being parents or adults who are on the autism spectrum. How familiar are you with the hiring process for adults on the spectrum? And adult, you know what I mean. I think it's the ADA, the autism and disability hiring programs.
Yeah. So Social Security, as well as other agencies, so we hire people, like veterans have preference. If you have a disability and you can prove it, obviously you have to submit certain, evidence, but they give you certain preference for certain jobs. So it depends. Sometimes they just hire open a position just for disabled individuals, and they give only preference to disabled individuals. So same thing, veterans, they open certain positions that are just for veterans. If you're a veteran and you're disabled, there's even more advantage, because obviously federal government want to give preference to people who are, make it equal to everybody. So there are, I can't say whether it's autism but if you have a disability and you apply for a job, then there is, you can submit certain evidence if they ask, because some positions don't ask, but some do give preference to either veterans or disabled individuals, and you can provide that evidence, and it gives you a certain, I don't remember if it's like 10 points above. So it's a point-based system for you to make the best qualified list. And so they'll put you ahead of, everybody else.
So as far as skills, I'm curious, especially since you lived within DC, was knowing another language, now in your case, Spanish is obviously very beneficial, not just for the government, but in almost every other public or private sector on some level, especially now, because knowing multiple languages isn't a bad thing, but especially for the government. Is it beneficial to know other languages? And was that distinguishable for hiring someone?
Definitely. So the benefit of speaking, 2 or more languages is that your brain, it's more flexible. It adapts to, like processing different things at different time. And it's supposedly, it just kind of like processes things faster once you speak 2 languages or more. So definitely an advantage. Obviously communicating with other people, it's a plus. But for Social Security in particular, and we offer services we offer interpreter services, I should say. So we are always hiring, bilingual from any language, because, we have a service to offer to people that may come from other countries, because as long as you pay your Social Security taxes, you are entitled to benefits. Obviously, there are certain rules and whatnot, but so we offer interpreter services in more than 200 languages. We have our website is, we have publications in more than 14 languages. So we need, the skills, we need translators, and we have contractors that, provide the services in other languages, but we are always hiring bilingual individuals because we offer those interpreter services. So I think I applied as a disability examiner was the position I applied to and got in at SSA, and it was a bilingual opening. And so that's how I got in. So it gave.
What community were you mainly doing their work with? Was it mostly Spanish speaking communities, or did you work with other communities as well?
No. So the work I did initially was disability examiner. Basically, I would examine claims for disability, not initial claims, but once people were, what we call in the role, receiving Social Security benefits for disability, they have to, if you're disabled, it means really for Social Security that you cannot work. So if you were working, I would review, the case to make sure that you're not working above a certain amount. So basically it was in English, but if it was a Spanish, I would take it and, just work the case. But basically, if you're working at a field office, it's different. I was working in headquarters. We don't work with the public directly. So
right, because I'm thinking of the smaller SSA offices in my local county where they would sometimes be field, but they were also really small offices. In fact, it's funny, with SSA, my father and mother at different times and somebody who had been a friend back in the last decade, we had opened up a case about 5 to 6 different times. But guess when the only time I was ever approved for anything, ironically, was when I was not living with either parent. I was living here on my own on a low wage income, and the only thing I qualified for at that time was Medicaid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Medicaid, which ends up being managed, not actual government Medicaid, because most doctors' offices, especially in my field, we don't accept Medicaid. We will only take managed Medicaid, but we will take Medicare because Medicare is for seniors.
Yeah, so exactly. So Medicare is for seniors. Medicaid is basically whether you're on disability, low
Or
income,
you're low income. Or you're low income. So this can
Yeah.
mean you were working in a retail level job.
Yeah, so
Which,
not necessarily retail level, but Medicaid is more, it's a state
under
program.
the federal poverty line, right? Whatever
Yeah.
the federal poverty line is right now.
Yeah, so I'm not very familiar with Medicare and Medicaid because that is not a social security program. That's what people may not know. So social security offer the services, you know, we offer SSI, which is supplemental security income, which is also a state program. It's a federal program, the states run it, but we offer the services in our field offices. It's not SSA's program though. Same with Medicaid and Medicare. It's not our program, it's the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. That's the agency, and we offer the service to the public. So our employees, will take the claim and whatnot. But it's not a program that I'm very familiar with because it's complicated. But the difference is
I wouldn't expect you to know much about it because of the fact that the approvals process for it in my, even just for all states, every state is a different approval process and they measure different things. I know when I was living with my parent, rules with that were specific, like you could be making a low income, but if the parent was making, well over whatever the threshold is, there's no way, you're going to get it. They're going to think it's like, what does he need it for? Whereas if I'm living on my own, for example, I'm paying my own housing, etc., then there might be a little more of a need for it.
Yeah, well, that's SSI. That's supplemental security income. That's not that's not an SSA program. But we manage or administer the program for the agency. I'm actually the states or the federal government. So
so you disperse the funds for it, correct?
No. So we make the administration. So you can come into a field office. We'll take your claim. We'll process it. But the money doesn't come from the trust fund of the Social Security. So the trust fund.
Okay.
Yeah. So Social Security, you pay taxes when you work, and those taxes go to the trust fund. And then if you ever are disabled and you are applying for Social Security disability benefits, which is SSDI, or says Social Security disability insurance, SSDI, that's based on your earnings and your what we call credits. You have to have a certain amount of credits, have to have worked a certain amount of quarters, have the credits and whatnot. And so you may qualify based on, how long you've worked and credits and whatnot. How for SSI, it's different. Is those are, taxes from the federal government, or funds from the federal government, I should say. So they disperse that to the states, and every state has different rules on how they, give the money away. And so you have to be disabled as well if you're under 65, and it's based on income. So that's, people get it confused all the time. SSI, it's not an SSA program. We just administer it for the federal government.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So I have an interesting question for you. All right. Since you were a national marketing manager, did a lot of those skills that you had learned in the past follow over to your role in the federal government, or not necessarily?
Every job you have, you acquire skills that will always help you in any other job or in your life in general. So yes. So, like skills like analytical skills, definitely, a lot of the job I started doing at Social Security when I was a disability examiner was going through a lot of information and making analysis and making, arriving to conclusions based on the data that I had to, available. Same thing with marketing, like you have data, you have to do research on your target audience, determine what's the best way to communicate with them based on their needs. And this is how we're going to position it to sell it to, to sell X product or, market this product among this target audience. So definitely yes. And the work I do now at Social Security is marketing and communication. So definitely it helped me. I started as a disability examiner, but I've been the last 10 years, I've been in, the Office of Communications, just doing marketing and communications, understanding audiences and how we can serve them better. How do we communicate with them better, and explain our benefits and services in a way that it's understandable, like what I just explained to you about SSI. Most people don't know that. They think, oh, I applied for Social Security disability, and I'm like, well, is that SSI or is it SSDI? And people don't understand. So it's a lot of nuances that people don't understand. So once they go to a field office, before they go to a field office. So we try to do, we do publications, we do our website, we do, social media, just so that the public can understand what we do and the services we offer, and, have a clear idea of, what we're here for.
Okay. Let's see. All right. So just out of curiosity, as a marketing manager, what were some of the things that you had to do on a daily basis when you were back in the private sector?
Well, same thing, that I do today. So same thing, whether you're a marketer in a federal government or a communicator, corporate or federal government, is the same. You are basically a marketer. It's the people who really understand, we do different things. We have the 4 P's of marketing, which is price, product, placement, and I always forget the other one, but basically is understanding your product. I'm sorry, what?
Segment, if I remember correctly.
No,
and this was
price,
going back to when I was in school.
Price, product, placement, which is distribution.
Distribution.
I forgot, but no, it's not positioning. I forgot. I always forget one. So anyway, but basically a marketer, what we do is understand the market. So that means really understanding the needs of the market. So if you are, like I explained to you, if I was Toyota, for instance, what we did, a lot of research, understanding based on, for Latin American market, we cannot price a car over X amount because, give me a second. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I am trying to mute. I'm so sorry. That was my daughter.
It's okay. That's okay.
And I asked them not to interrupt, but that happens every time. So
you're probably, LV had her kids in the background too, and one of my earliest guests, the second month, also there was an interruption. It's fine. You're all mothers, so hey, there's nothing wrong with having a kid interrupt.
Yeah, no, I'm on my phone and I'm trying to mute and this is not working. So anyway, I was saying marketers.
On our phone.
Yeah, no, I'm not home. I don't have my computer, so I had to improvise, but it's fine. So I was.
What do you think I've been doing all year? Improvising.
That's what we do. I mean, that's a great skill to have too. So that's what we do too as marketers. A lot of pivoting, a lot of improvising when we have data that you have a strategies not working. You just have to move, pivot, do something else. So basically, marketers, what we do is really understand the market, what they need, what they want, what motivates them to buy. And it depends, if we're in the in the automobile industry, is how can we price this car so that it just doesn't exceed the needs of the market, especially in Latin America where there are lower incomes. So we like you bring lower models rather than high-end models, depending on the market and whatnot. So basically it's understanding what the needs of the market are. So you do a lot of research, and then you may pay, for like a Toyota, we pay a Forester to do research on a segment of the audience or market that we want to, get into or whatnot. And so it's just understanding your market and then understanding how can I price this product so that it's profitable yet, it doesn't exceed the needs of the market. Its product is then, if you were a product marketer, then it's same thing, doing a lot of research, understanding what are the needs of the market or the target audience or the segment, so that you can develop exactly the product that they want. Also understanding the competition and what is the competition offering, how can we really position ourselves, which is positioning, differentiate ourselves from the competition and really stand out. So basically, it's all about understanding the people you're selling to, or serving. It depends. If federal government is service and it's free, we're not charging for what we offer. In the corporate America is usually selling a service or a product. And so that's it. It's marketing is all about your customer, and it's really understanding your customer in a way that you can speak to them as if, like I'm a friend, I really know you and I know what you need. And, that's really marketing. And, there's so many things nowadays, but marketing in essence is just really knowing your customer so that you meet their needs.
So when you're talking from a marketing aspect, especially with private products, I would, because I worked at least one retail job where it was strictly sales, and that stayed with me for some time in, these last few years. I would agree that when you're selling a product, you are to a degree trying to become like, best friends to the customer, to say, hey, this is, what I think you need. Like, for example, when I get a lot of these dry pitches on LinkedIn from people who are I probably had 5 dry pitches last year from people who are trying to sell Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Now, don't get me wrong. I do hold a little Bitcoin now through one of my broker accounts, and, through my M1 broker account. And I believe in it, but the people who were trying to pitch me were trying to pitch me for, higher deposits than I could afford. And they're trying to sell, well, I think this is best for you to have daily profits. I'm like, you don't know me that way. It's nice to say we should be investing in something that makes daily profits, but can we afford it? That's a different story. And in that aspect, especially when it's a service like that, I mean, what do you think of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency? Do you think this is a product or this is a service? Because most finance takes on a hybrid of service and product.
So it depends on what, finance product. Bitcoin, it depends on how you go about it. I'm not an expert. My husband is, and he's, like, if you want anything about Bitcoin and, cryptocurrency, he's the guy. I let him do all of that. I don't get involved. I personally, I've been trying to learn about stock market because I'm not the type of person that gets into any new technology or whatnot if I'm not really, I don't really do my research. And so because I haven't had the time, so I really don't know. But basically, marketing and sales are 2 different things. I think, I get a lot of pitches on LinkedIn every day. Oh, does your company need, I don't know, influencer?
Oh, I've gotten plenty of those too. And this is now that I'm a private entrepreneur as well. I got people coming up to me. Do you want my, I can offer you help in, in administrative. What about this product? What about this? I'm like, I don't have the budget yet. Talk with me in a couple years. I don't have the budget yet. I can't afford this right now, but sure, maybe I'll hop on a Zoom call with you. And then it never ends up going anywhere because I'm just like, I can't afford this right now. I'm doing things as simple as possible with
exactly.
This.
And every business, there's spaces when you're growing your business, and you need marketing services, then, by any means, go for it. If, I always advise that as a marketer, right? And so I value, some of the services that are offered. It's just like, they don't know me. Like you said, they don't know me. They don't know my needs. They're just a dry pitch. Oh, yes. Like I see you have, alva roots and whatnot. And so they immediately assume that there's budget and whatnot. And so, like they don't even try to establish like a relationship, get to know me, understand my needs. And that's what marketing does. Sales is just
So
not
before I
necessarily.
actually ask you that question about your business, I actually that was going to be one of my next questions, but finish what you were saying.
Yeah, so I was saying that difference between sales and marketing is a huge difference. Sales, you need certain skills that I am not a good salesperson. I am a good marketer, and there's two different skill sets for that. So as a marketer, what I do is I'm going to do a lot of research to understand the audience from a different perspective, what we call psychographics, demographics, understanding who really our products are for and whatnot. And so the salesperson is gonna it's more on a personal level, really understanding the needs of that customer that's in front of them, and to see that, and we shouldn't be pushing a product. It's like, do you really need my product? And how can my product, how can I help you? How can my product really solve your problems? So it is a little bit of similarities, like they're cousins, but they're not brother and sister. So yeah, different skill sets. I always said that I'm not a good salesperson, that I want to develop my sales skills because, I understand that they are important as well. So, but yeah, basically two different skill sets, in my opinion. A lot of people get them confused, and I understand why, because marketing, we do want to sell, as a business, the intent is ultimately to sell, but marketing is more to change behavior, to understand your customer, to really cater to the needs of the customer. That's really what marketing is about.
So before I ask you that question, it's very funny because with the podcast, since the podcast would count as a service or a digital product, I had to do a little bit of both throughout this entire year. But I had to do, starting 2 years ago when I was just looking for a job, it started out as just aimlessly commenting on larger creators' accounts, as you did, especially with who we interacted through. And this is where we are today. But a lot of what I was doing is if you noticed, when I place a comment, it wasn't necessarily for the creator, but it was good if she or anyone else interacted. It was more for people like you, so that, people like you would eventually start looking at my profile. So basically marketing, advertising, branding. But see, unfortunately with social media, you kind of have to have knowledge of all three, because basically some of these people are posting up things to get a conversation going, but then they're inserting in their box below the post afterwards, potentially a placed digital product. So in this case, it might be an ebook, or in my case, once I post this, after this is posted on my YouTube channel, I will probably be posting the whole interview, but I'll post it as a link below, as you've seen with some of my own posts. Now, when I just got a freelancing opportunity to be a project manager for somebody, what I did was basically include her in a tag for her nonprofit, but at the same time, she saw my podcast, a lot of what I was promoting through my, promoting in conversation on LinkedIn, which was also marketing, but I was also branding knowledge. So it's all interconnected, because when you deal with social media, again, you have to be knowledgeable of, all three of these, really.
Yeah. So basically marketing is, wherever the attention goes, that's where marketers are going to be, because another aspect of marketing besides knowing your customer is, where is my customer? Are they in, reading magazines? Are they on social media? Are they on, I don't know, if I'm a rich person that, I don't know,
wants to buy an NFT, a non-frugal token, which is basically digital art, they're going to be on social media.
Exactly. But if I'm like, let's say, if I'm selling, excuse me, Rolex, would that type of person, I'm assuming here, would they be on social media all day?
No.
Would I? Exactly. So
Rolex is for a much more mature than our age group market. We're probably talking about people we're probably talking about a business executive probably in their 50s or 60s who's got a lot more disposable income, whose kids probably are all grown up in the workforce, they're not home anymore, so that person can go off and treat themselves to something.
So what you just
Whereas,
did is,
let's be honest, somebody like you, are you going to buy a Rolex? Probably not, at least not right now.
well, I have a Rolex. So, and it's that was.
Oh, you do have a Rolex.
Yes. But
I want a Rolex, but unfortunately, I would rather have a multifamily home where it's being rented out, and then that could pay for the Rolex.
Well, I have that too. So it depends on how you invest your money, right? But that was a gift to me. So instead of asking,
you got it as a gift, but at the very least, it sounds like you were using some of your government earnings to get into real estate, which isn't a bad thing.
No. So I got a Rolex because I asked when my husband wanted to propose. I said, I don't want a ring. I don't think diamonds are really that important to me. So just get me a Rolex, and that's what I got.
That's creative, because honestly, I could make a really bad joke. I think the real reason you probably didn't want the ring is because there's political reasons for that, especially with where the diamonds come from.
Yeah, that's one point. But also the research I did back in the day was that really diamonds are worthless. They just sell it to you as it's positioning. Oh, they're so rare and whatnot. They're not rare.
But see, without diamonds, would we have cell phone screens or would we have computer screens? Because that's another use of diamonds.
Exactly.
The crystal screens. How about the glasses
really
that you and I wear? That's diamonds.
But that's the point. They're not really that rare. They sell it to you as a rarity so they can increase the price. So then I read, if you are to resell it, you're never going to get the investment. So I'm like, that's a bad investment. So I mean, I don't really care for jewelry. As you can see, I don't wear anything. So I said,
and that's a good thing.
Yeah. And so, that's why I have investment property, because I don't like to spend on certain things, but I do like to spend on. Yeah.
Like you, I'm not at all interested in NFT. I think NFTs are interesting. I think Bitcoin and crypto is interesting, but I'm not as interested in them as I am commercial and residential real estate in the stock market. Those are my two main interests outside of the medical field.
Exactly. And
I'm not one of those people who religiously worships an internet-based token or an internet-based currency, which is probably just as reliant on the stock market and price fixing as anything else anyway.
I agree with that. I have a love-hate relationship with the stock market. I said I wanted to learn. It's just that to me, it's like, I feel it's manipulated. So there is.
Have you ever been to a casino? Because you'd probably make the same argument going to a casino, since all of it is gambling. It's all gambling in some way, shape, or form. It's just, would you prefer to go play slots, or would you go rather invest on a bunch of people to make sales, and then when they can't make sales, then the company tanks?
Well, that's the thing. I really believe the stock market is like gambling. And then you have to make a informed gambling decision. But, I hate casinos. I hate throwing my money away if, that's just the way I am. And I feel the same with the stock market, which, when the pandemic started, I was like, I thought of taking my 401k and investing it and whatnot. I left it there, but I'm really considering, I rather invest my own money. And this is obviously, it's my opinion. I'm not a financial advisor. I have no idea what I'm doing. So I just do what works for me. And that's what, you do what works.
I want to buy rental property, investment property myself, but I also need to get myself, first things and foremost, because up here that we're building more housing, they're building more housing. Eventually I'll get to acquire that. But first I need to, get myself like a condo or a co-op. So, there are two steps, but I should be able to probably do it before I'm 60. And with the slow success of this, as you saw the other day, the more freelance opportunities coming my way, the better. And one already came my way, even though it's volunteer. So now that we have a moment, Tell me about Cortafel and Alva Roots and what the missions of both of those are, since those are your businesses.
Yeah, so Cordofel, I started years ago, around 2009 when I was laid off. So I said, I was in New York, lots of Hispanics, lots of Hispanic businesses that I saw needed marketing services. And so I started as a, pro bono, helping them out. I didn't have a job. So I said, I might as well just use my skills to help them, market their businesses and whatnot. And so then it developed into, as the more I got to do research for the US Hispanic market, Latin American markets, then what I offer is services to corporations that want to do, enter the Hispanic market, the US Hispanic market, or any Latin American market. And so I offer my marketing services with, the insights that I have in those audiences. And so what I do now, whenever I have, like a corporate business that pays for my services, then I provide pro bono services for Hispanic businesses here in the United States. And so that's what Cordafel does. It's basically marketing, and it's really focused on knowing and understanding the US Hispanic market and the Latin American market. And so for Alva Roots, it's completely different. So I'm the co-founder, and Alva Roots, it's the founder is my friend now, Jasmine. So she's Afro-Latina, and she has another company as well. Her company is Pretty Well Beauty. And so she sells like non-toxic, 100% clean products for like, cosmetics, lotions, everything.
So like when you go to a beauty store situation,
like
but
Sephora,
it's more
like Sephora, but clean products.
Okay, at least it's a little more authentic than if you went to a store where, for example, Afro-Latino women or, where Black and African women would buy their products, but the owner is basically, let's be honest, from Asia.
Yeah, so Jasmine, which is the founder of Alva Roots, she has Pretty Well Beauty, which is, she has a brick and mortar now in New York City, but it's basically a Sephora, but just for clean products. And that means 100% non-toxic. So she just, curates the products that she sells. They have to be very clean. She makes sure the ingredients are safe and, they're not going to hurt you in any way. And so she always had the idea of starting a hair care product because of her experience. And so myself as a Latina with curly hair and my experience with hair, my girl's hair is very curly and textured. So we met over Lunch Club. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No, what's Lunch Club?
So Lunch Club is an app in which they match you with, people that may have similar interests to you. And so you get matched every week or every so often.
It's not like a dating app, correct?
It's kind of, I don't know. I mean, you answer questions.
Tell me the name of it again, because I might look into this for myself.
Lunch Club. And so they basically match you with people that may have similar interests. Look, if you want just entrepreneurs and like you just put, I just want to meet entrepreneurs, people that I can do business with, and that's basically, who they match you with. And then you answer questions.
I'm likely going to download that actually after we get off this and start looking into it.
Yeah, so that's how I met the founder of Alva Roots, and I'm the co-founder and chief marketing officer. So we are just starting the company. We're in the product development now. So basically what we're developing is a hair care line for curly and texture hair, where is 100% clean or non-toxic. Basically what we want is a product that you can basically eat it and it's that safe. So I don't know if you know, but all the products, beauty products specifically, are filled with toxins that are like hormone disruptors.
I have heard that.
Yeah, so they're horrible. And so, but it's everywhere. Your mattress probably has, fire retardants that are horrible for you, and you're sleeping on that. And I just had an idea of, I had an idea today of another business, but not going to go into that. So basically, Alva Roots
You can tell me about that on a phone call separate from this another day, because I'd probably be interested in that.
but it's all about, to me, because of my health journey and whatnot, it's all about reducing the exposure to toxins, and they're everywhere in your furniture, in your products, in your perfume, and like perfume and like Febreze. I was listening to a video yesterday that is as toxic as somebody smoking next to you. So they call it PFAS or PFAS. And so they're very toxic to you, and they may change your hormones and how you react to certain things. And so for kids is very, very important. So for my kids and for myself, but for my kids specifically, I try to avoid, like I bought a mattress for them that, I made sure it's like made out of wool, non-toxic, like the wool is fire retardant naturally. So, like there are alternatives out there. So that's what I'm trying to, and my other journey is like to make for my daughters and for myself a healthy lifestyle where I can eat as close as possible to the earth and develop, products that are, that meet your needs, but are also not, toxic or bad for you and your health. And so, because nowadays we're so ignorant about what we put in our mouth, or, where we sleep or where we sit, even,
Well,
like,
we're not given enough information. That's what it really is. We're given like bare information. I mean,
well,
don't get me wrong. I like the beer that I'm drinking, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was some stuff in it now looking, because I looked over the label. There is definitely some stuff in here that's not going to be good for me. I know that, but at the very least with craft brews, when you pay for, for a craft beer, or, at the very least, when you pay for a craft beer, it's paying for a product that's not commercialized like Budweiser. I love Budweiser, but Budweiser, and Bud Light are just commercialized beers. I'd rather have, a local craft.
yeah,
That's one good example, because at
yeah.
least with the local craft, it's naturally made.
And the local craft may have, a process that, avoids the additional toxins and whatnot, and so
Clean
that's what
water.
yeah. And so that's what we're trying to do with Alva Roots, is provide a product that is 100, we want to provide the cleanest, purest hair care line for curly and texture hair. And based also on our experiences, like I have spent hours doing my girls' hair, and with products that are filled with things that are horrible for them. And
So like
so,
Procter and Gamble products, which are probably all commercialized and global as well.
yeah.
Because Procter and Gamble comes to mind as those, they're commercialized products, but the manufacturing process is not natural and it has things in it.
Yeah, but Procter and Gamble and Unilever and all these companies now are, what they're doing now is buying companies like Alva Roots, because we are the ones that understand the very little niche of this market and developing the product, and eventually, it's competition for them. So I mean, I've seen it all over Instagram lately where, a lot of people develop products like hair care, cosmetic products that are, 100% non-toxic, or at least better options that, all these chemical filled products that you buy at, like, big brand stores and whatnot. And so, that's what we're trying to do with Alva Roots. Our mission is really to have a world that's, free of toxins. And, that's basically what we want. And so, especially for hair care. And so
Yeah.
those are the two companies that I'm working on. And I have, other companies that I have ideas. One has to do with real estate, which I love. I mentioned.
We only have about, I think, 5 minutes left, but
Okay.
finish your thought. And then there's a few things I want to say, because that's something I would want to discuss with you on a separate call. Because I was discussing with a friend who lives down in the DC area a while back about real estate. So finish what you were saying about real estate.
Yeah. So real estate, I love real estate. I went to architecture school for my undergrad. I didn't finish my master's degree. I went to business school. I don't regret it at all, but I love it. I buy property. I don't flip it. I live on the property. I remodel and then I sell, and that's what I've been doing. So I just bought a property here in Puerto Rico, and my plan is to do an Airbnb. So that's what I really love. I'm looking at the 2023 market because supposedly prices are going to go down, and this is where I want to, invest.
That's
So,
the year I'm hoping to get into real estate, but I might have to wait till 2024. And do you feel that rates are going to be about, if rates go down next year, will they stay the same the following year?
So what I see, and obviously I'm not an expert, I see properties are gonna go down, but I think the APRs, I can't think, are gonna stay up because the Federal Reserve wants to, what they're pushing for is decentivize buying. And so usually, that's why interest rates are so high for cars and, housing and whatnot. So that's their plan. So I do see interest rate possibly going up, and housing market, that's what they're predicting. I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen it yet, but they're predicting the housing market, the bubble, to pop in this year, 2023. And so I think the opportunity is, if you have money to invest, not get into a loan. So obviously, if you have to, you do. But
So if I go into REITs, for example, that might be a good start. Real estate investment trust for like something low. It's unfortunately, that's a separate discussion because we're probably going to have to end in a few minutes. But very quickly, do you think REITs would be a good start in the new year?
the reach is, you said, real
Real
estate
estate investment trust.
investment trust. So that's whose trust is that?
Basically marketing. It's like Charles Schwab, for example, where basically I would put like $100 in, but most likely, a manager is going to be taking a large amount of the fees. I mean, not everyone's going to have the money to obviously buy or invest in a property, but that's a long-term goal. So you're definitely, someone I'm going to be coming to,
So yeah, so
for this
what
type of
people are
advice
doing,
because we're interested in the same thing.
what I would do is, there's a lot of people who are buying like what they call doors, like these big apartment buildings. And so what they do, they bring investors together, people like you and I, and we put, let's say, oh, I put 50,000, and then, buy, it costs millions of dollars, but they bring investors, like ourselves. And then you have a piece of, your share and whatnot. And if we sell it down the road and whatnot, then you get that, I would probably feel more comfortable doing that than putting $100 in a trust fund, which, I don't know anything about that. But what I have done basically is buy my own property, and then, because I have a background in architecture, remodel, and then resell. What I want to do now is, and then this is what I'm learning, obviously, is to buy, properties that I can rent, do Airbnb. There's so many
That's
things.
what I want to do as well. But
Yeah.
anyway, like I said, I appreciate that you came by today and that we definitely had a lot to talk about. This was a lot of fun for me and you. And I want to end saying Happy New Year, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed having our guests today, and we'll see you in the new year.
Happy New Year. Thank you for having
Happy
me.
New Year. You're welcome. All right, Justin, hit record off.